A few days ago, I was in a group of, herbal practitioners that many of us are traditional medicine practitioners. So somebody in the group asked a question. He asked a question about a particular plant and was asking how he can get it. And some people were giving suggestions. Some people went and searched for the plant on Google, sent the picture to him and all. And he said, he wants to know where he can get it to buy. It's not that he just wants to identify it. And I now told him, I gave an advice. I said, go to any place where there are people that work with plants. One of the places you can go to is Forest Research Institute. So they have people who are trained taxonomists there. When you get there, go to where the herbarium is and ask the taxonomist in charge, how can I get this plant? So when I gave that advice, somebody in the group said, why doesn't he just ask ChatGPT? And then I told the person I said, ChatGPT is not all that accurate for the kind of work we do. And then another person responds and says, that there is a way you will train ChatGPT to be able to, with prompts, to be able to give you an accurate answer. And he said he uses ChatGPT to find out the local names of herbs. So because in that group we ask questions and we always want to learn from each other. So I now told him, I said, I explained, I first of all typed it because it was the morning and I was busy. But when I was free, I now went on ChatGPT and I typed in a prompt. I asked ChatGPT, what is the botanical name of ogonwo? And when ChatGPT was going to bring out the answer, it told me the botanical name was Kaya senegalensis. I now typed, what is the local name of Yoruba name of Kaya ivorensis? And it brought out what? Ogonwo. ChatGPT now told me, I can differentiate the two of them, botanically and medicinally. I said, go ahead and differentiate. I'll put in all the screenshots. And it did just that. So it differentiated, the botanical characteristics of senegalensis and the botanical characteristics of ivorensis. Then it went on to list the medicinal properties. So I now told the person that said, I train ChatGPT to understand simple prompts and all that. I said, there are certain things ChatGPT cannot do. You can see that there is a clear confusion here because among the Yorubas, they call Kaya ivorensis the same name they call senegalensis, but they are not the same, even though they are in the same family. And I was explaining, I said, ChatGPT, we should not, as professionals, rely 100% on ChatGPT because there can be mistakes that can occur. For instance, this one. ChatGPT, as I was trying to educate them, is like a generic tool that gives information. It is an artificial intelligence. So it scours the internet and pulls information. So when you ask a question, to search the internet and bring out what it thinks is the right answer. I said, but there are some things you can never find on the internet. For those places like FREEN, Forest Research Institute and all that, many of those establishments, they have what they call herbariums, where they have different plant species that have been kept there. So if you go to the herbarium and you're asking for a particular plant, they can actually go search for it. They have a way they arranged it so they can search for it, pinpoint the exact location where that plant you can get it and tell you. So it's a more precise science, and that's because that's their training. Whereas ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, where can you get Kaya ivorensis? It will say, you can get it in Akwa Ibom, this and that. That is not precise. When ChatGPT listed the medicinal properties of both species, I said, let us look at the anti-malaria properties. Kaya senegalensis has a stronger anti-malaria property than Kaya ivorensis. Now, if you are going by what ChatGPT said, and you typed it, what is the name of Kaya senegalensis, or it tells you, this is ogonwo, you now go to the markets and go and look for it and buy it. The local healers cannot differentiate between the two species. They have the same name. So if you have a patient that has malaria, you go and get the ivorensis and you use it to treat that patient. Because Kaya ivorensis has a weaker anti-malarial property than Kaya senegalensis, when you give it to that patient, the patient will not recover. But the worst part of it is not even that the patient will not recover. You have exposed that patient to a suboptimal dose of the active anti-malarial substance in the plant. Remember, these are plants in the same family. So when you look at them, you look at activities, medicinal properties. Some can have stronger medicinal properties than the other. So if you have an organism like a parasite, which is what malaria is, and you expose it to suboptimal doses of something that's supposed to kill it, what you will end up doing is creating something that can be resistant to that substance. So when you now finally realize that, oh, it was the wrong Kaya species that I gave the patient, let me quickly go and get the senegalensis since it's stronger. You go and get it and you give that patient. But because you have been giving the patient the wrong thing, you have exposed the organism to a lower dose of the substance, that organism can now develop resistance to the parasite, and then you have drug resistance. So these things are precise. I'm posting this because I know that there are lots of people that, because of the ChatGPT, they are no longer doing their due diligence. You must not cut corners as a herbalist. You have to do everything the way you are meant to do it. There are things that you can use ChatGPT for, but to be very honest, don't use ChatGPT to identify your plants. Do your own homework and work with what? Taxonomists. They are trained in that. That's their field of expertise. I don't identify plants for myself because it's not my field of expertise. So you have to allow them do what they are trained to do. And they will get you the exact plant you need and authenticate it for you. Otherwise, you will just be you will think you are doing it the proper way, but you are not. Because ChatGPT says it does not mean it is correct. And I told them, I said, many of those herbariums, they have specimens that have been stored there for decades. There is no database, no centralized database of herbariums on the internet for ChatGPT to search and give you more precise information. The reason why my own, for me, it's different, right? My practice is different, is because of my training. As a scientist, I'm trained to be very precise. Everything I do must be vetted. So, as a scientist who worked with plants, before you pick up any plant to work with, the first thing you need to do is authenticate it, and you have to go and look for a taxonomist that will do it. And then they will deposit a voucher specimen of that plant in the herbarium. The purpose is, if they want to check your work to see if you did the proper thing, they will go there and confirm that you use the right plants. So it is a requirement for any research you are doing with any plant. It must be authenticated. Otherwise, if you go to good journals, they are not going to accept that paper because they will say, why wasn't it authenticated? How are you sure you are even using the right plants? So it's my training in that I'm now applying to my practice. So it's very important as a herbalist that you don't identify your plants yourself, except you are trained taxonomists. Don't do it. Like I told my colleagues, just humble yourself. Go and look for one or two of them, befriend them, add them on WhatsApp. So if you see any plant, sometimes I have many of them as friends. I'll just send a picture of the plant, different plant parts, and I'll say, what's this? Sometimes they'll tell me, oh, we cannot do it just like that. You have to bring a specimen. And then I'll make out time to take the specimen for them to authenticate. So it's a precise science that even ChatGPT cannot help you to do. There are many other things that herbalists do with ChatGPT. They have to stop it. Okay, because AI is very useful, yeah, but it was made by a human being. Except there is an AI that has been trained in taxonomy. And it's a separate AI on its own that, even then, trained taxonomists, sometimes you send pictures, they can't do anything with pictures. You have to bring the sample to them. Okay, so take a lot of things with a pinch of salt. ChatGPT, all those apps that identify plants, yes, they can be useful to some extent, but sometimes they are not accurate, and the inaccuracy can cause a big problem if it is introduced in the treatment you are giving to the clients.